I think it's good afternoon now at this stage, and thank you to Ibec for giving me the opportunity to share some thoughts with you today on education and skills for a dynamic economy. We're on the cusp of massive change in the workplace. Globalization is changing almost every job and every industry in our economy, and the same is true for technology. Just think about your environment, your work environment, even a few years ago. Was it really only a few years ago that a blackberry was a summer fruit, that green was a colour, Amazon was the second largest river in South America, Google was a number, it now seems to be part of our brain function, and of course we're all in the cloud. And as for Bluetooth, well, it's so 21st century, I don't know how we ever managed without it. But on a serious note, it's in today's interconnected world, a mobile phone, a laptop, and an internet connection are the basis for participating in the global economy. Now, this is utterly transforming the way that we live and work. New jobs are emerging that are requiring much different skills, and also other jobs are disappearing altogether and leaving people unemployed. Now, when we add globalization to the mix, and we know that businesses are sourcing their raw materials wherever it's cheapest to do so, they're manufacturing their products wherever it's most cost effective, and they're hiring skills and talent wherever they can find them, regardless of political borders. Now, what we're really seeing in CPL is that jobs are migrating around the globe, and they're landing where the right skills are available at the right price and at the right time. And thankfully, Ireland has benefited from this, and we've benefited, I think, first because of our skilled and talented workforce. But indeed, I was just thinking about Jerry's comment about the fact that the management in many of the multinationals here today have global responsibility. And I have to say, I think they are the unsung heroes of this recovery, because we see how hard they pitch to bring projects and jobs to Ireland. I think we really have to give them a hand, though, and help them, because what we're also seeing is that emerging economies are no longer just competing on cost. They're investing in their education systems, and they're now competing with a high-skilled workforce. In this type of fast-changing world, it's countries that can adapt quickly and educate people to develop the right skills are the ones who will have the real edge. And it's they who will win when it comes to competing to attract growth industries of the future. I see this as a great opportunity for government and Irish business. We have an opportunity right now to work together and set the conditions for a competitive, dynamic economy and the good jobs that come with it. So while your mobile, the laptop, and an internet connection are the entry tickets for the global economy, it's the right skills that are the playing cards. So the challenge for us now is first to ensure that individuals have the skills they need to succeed and thrive in a modern economy. But secondly, to ensure also that businesses have the workforce with the relevant and right skills to help them compete and succeed in a global economy. Now, as Jack Johnson sunnily sang in the midst of boom time, we're always better when we're together. And by which I mean the siloed, separate model of the past for education and training no longer works. We need the government agencies, service providers, Irish business, and individuals all working together to develop and upskill for the new jobs of the future. Now, let me outline two areas where I think urgent action is needed. The first is unemployment, and the second is our education system. And I'll start with unemployment. We see the government is working hard to fix unemployment, and it's really encouraging to see that our unemployment rate is at the lowest level in 4 years. But despite this, unemployment remains far too high, and the real challenge here is long-term unemployment. 45% of people now on the live register are more than a year unemployed. And 1 in 5 children in Ireland are growing up in a household where no one works. That's according to an OECD report that came out last October. Now, this is terrible news. Because long-term unemployment not only has the potential to damage people's lives, it also damages our long-term economic performance, and of course is extremely costly. Now, according to the ESRI, the long-term unemployed have a 6% chance of finding a job without intervention. In CPL, we've had some experience of working with government on a programme called Momentum, and this was aimed at getting people who are in long-term unemployment back to work. This was a results-focused programme, and by that I mean the government pay us when we deliver the result. And we are delivering. 55% of those on the CPL Momentum programme are either in jobs or work placement. A further 24% are still in training, and 3% have gone back to further education. Now, some of the stories of how people have transformed their lives are truly inspiring. But not all labour market activation schemes work. In fact, there's been very mixed results. And I believe that all schemes should be systematically evaluated and those not delivering closed down. And the schemes that have a record of improving people's employment prospects and getting jobs for people should be strengthened. Now, my second area for action is education. I'm really glad to say that there's a real sense of realism in the education and skills area in government. Back in the day, you'd never have heard an education minister admit that it is blatantly untrue that we have one of the best education systems in the world. I like this new honesty in government. It means that problems can be identified and sorted out. Minister Quinn also wasn't sitting back on his laurels with a recent improvement in our PISA results for Irish students, which indeed was very welcome. But he said, we need to be in the top 10%. And he is so right. But I would like to also add to that we need to bring our education and training systems more in line with the skills that are needed in the labour market. We know that the foundations for each individual's success is laid in school. Now, clearly, we have to have the basics right. We need good levels of mathematics and literacy. But as I said earlier, the skills that are in demand in the modern economy are changing at a phenomenal pace. This increases the demand on our education system to be much more adaptable. Changes in our education system to date, and indeed in our curriculum, have moved at a very slow pace. We just have to take the example of Project Maths, or indeed what's happening now with junior cycle reform. These type of changes need to be stepped up, because the skills that are now required in the workplace, such as creativity, innovation, critical thinking, problem solving, self-direction, I don't think are even being evaluated in our education system to see how our students are performing in this area. I think perhaps at university level they may be, but certainly not in primary and secondary school. Sufficient resources must be allocated to implement the reforms that are required. We have to remember that spending on education was reduced from 13.7% in 2000 to 9.4% in 2011. Education and training is transformational for both the individual and for the economy. Our education system will have a fundamental impact on the type of growth that this country enjoys. It will also have a fundamental impact on the type of economy we become, and therefore the type of jobs our children will have in the future. There's a term used in my business called hiring ahead of the curve, and that's where you plan for your needs in advance and you ensure that you're in pole position as the recovery takes hold. Well, in educational strategy, we're just not there yet. We need to become much, much better at anticipating the skills that are required for future jobs and for business. So that's the challenge. How do we connect the knowledge in our businesses to the strategists in the Department of Education and throughout government? This is where I think employers must step up. We have the knowledge about the skills that are required, and we have to share it. So it's up to you now. If you're doing nothing, start now. If you're doing something, do more. But if CPL Momentum approaches you to take one of their candidates for a 20-week work placement, just say, yes, please, may I take 2? Thank you.